Hey everybody, I am Trey Rowland, and I was jamming out to way more funky than it had any right to be countdown music. My God, what a banger. Everybody looks good here because it's the whole Knowles 24/7 staff. We decided it's a bye week. We all could have just been drunk in the gutter somewhere, just trying to just trying to chill out from how hard we've been working, but we don't do that here at Knowles 24/7. We work for you, the people, and we are always trying to bring you the content that we think is necessary. So we've decided to get together, and I don't know the math, but what's the FSU season done right now? It's like 1/6 of the way finished. So it's a perfect time for an early season roundtable, guys. So we're going to talk about what we've seen from Florida State through 2 games, what we've seen from a very, very volatile and surprising landscape in college football, and just every other topic in between. But listen, I'm just the host. I'm going to kick it to the real talent, the guys here at Knowles 24/7, staff. Kevin Little, Adam Brown, Brendan Sonon, Dane Draper, Sliced Bread, Zach Blostein, and the big Papa Pump himself, Chris Nee. Boys, how art thou?
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I do think we need to address this. I think Brett's dead in the gutter somewhere. He's been at the Palace since LSU lost to Florida State last second extra point. And
the last text we got was he was crawling back from the Palace to his place.
he's in the gutter like Edgar Allan Poe was 200 years ago.
That's great. That's a very topical reference, Brendan. You only come with the hottest of fire. Sick literary reference. If you do see some younger white male shambling around talking about curveballs, knuckleballs, looking disheveled, smelling like a distillery, that's Brett Nevitt. And please check his collar and call his owners. Let us know where he's at. We're very worried.
He looks like the Lorax.
I've never met Brett in person, but I'm going to say shots fired. All right, if you see a Seuss character come to life that smells like beer, that's Brett Nevitt, and we want him to come home. We miss him. Anyway, guys. We're 2 games into the season, like I said. I want to hear what's up, Mike Myrick? How you doing? Everybody's general mood right now. Chris, I'm going to go with you, man. Nice little Seussian reference there. What's your general mood right now, 2 games into the season? How you feeling?
I'm as happy as I've been since 2016, I think.
Oh, man, that's a 6. Then that includes personal life, everything. This is the happiest you've been in 6 years.
Yeah, I think my wife's happier too. She can put up with me. So,
Oh, yeah?
We're good. We're good.
I love that. Brendan, what about you? Edgar Allan Sonone, how you feeling, man?
I was going to make a Hops on Pops reference. I guess I just did because of Dr. Seuss drunk. This is a good one, right?
Yes, it was fantastic.
I'm great. This is the happiest I've been since I've joined Knowles 24/7 in 2016. It's all been a curse since then. So maybe adding all you fine gentlemen has finally turned things around. It took 10 editions to Knowles 24/7 to really change the fortunes of the Florida State Seminoles.
I think we briefly have lost Trey. So
I believe so.
I think he's back. Here we go.
Hey, guys. Yeah, that was great. As Brendan was saying, all these new additions that we've added have been great, and there's been no issues whatsoever. But yes, so you're feeling good. Everybody's feeling good. Is that the general mood around the entire staff right now? Are you guys all feeling good? Anybody waiting for the other shoe to drop? Anybody waiting for the ominous bad thing that has seemed to follow Florida State for the past 6 years to happen?
That would be a Zach thing to do, but no, I don't know how you could be anything but positive right now. Unless you're Zach Blostein, of course, but he's always
That's messed up. Hey, I've been positive, man. I know everyone's going to talk about my LSU prediction. It was a reverse jinx. You guys all got fooled. I helped you guys out. But yeah, I'm positive. I'm a huge fan of what's going on right now. I think the LSU win was huge, and obviously we'll delve into that and kind of what's coming up. But yeah, I think this next game is really important on the season outlook for sure.
I agree with that. I agree. Chris, I love your avatar. Bring back our boy Nevitt. Yeah, bring back the truffula trees. Kevin, what's your biggest storyline of the season so far as the way that Florida State's played, in your opinion? What has been the thing that's really popped out to you, being such an avid watcher of the film?
Probably something that has been talked about but not thoroughly discussed is just how different the play calling has seemed early on.
Okay.
I think that there was a lot of patience in the play calling against LSU. I thought the game plan was cohesive. I thought it was well-rounded. I think the past couple of years, you saw Florida State scoring on the first drives and the halves. So the scripted drives worked really well, and then they would flounder for the rest of the half. I think that that trend is kind of we haven't seen that yet. So I think the play callings looked good. I think the players are playing as well as we were hearing they were playing in fall camp. And so, just good things all around.
I'm with you, dude. The ability to consistently put drives together has been very eye-opening to me because Florida State was all boom or bust, and it really has been for the past couple years. The fact that we were putting drives together, I would have liked us to finish in the red zone a little bit better, but that's just kind of being nitpicky. Adam, what about you? Is the play call stood out to you, or has there been another storyline that you're watching develop as the season goes on?
No, I think the play calling's been pretty good. I talked about it during the game in the game thread, and then wrote about it a little bit earlier this week, that they really were just kind of content with just throwing body blows over and over again the whole game. Like, they were going to hold on to the ball, they were going to control the clock, manage the tempo of the game, throw blows at LSU, and force them to go out there and be productive over and over again offensively. And it really just kind of worked in their favor. And I thought, even going back to the Duquesne game, that it was the same thing. I mean, they were going to run the football. They were going to lean on that and let that be the identity. And that's who Mike Norvell's wanted to be. We'll see if it continues. I think it will.
Chris, Brendan, do you guys feel the same? Has it been mostly just how the team is run, just kind of the identity of the team? Are there individual player storylines, unit storylines that have really stood out to you? Or is it really just how different the team has looked from an operational standpoint is the biggest storyline 2 games into the season so far?
Well, I agree with Kev's point on the scoring. If you look, they're scoring pretty evenly by quarter. I think they've had 6 drives of 11 plays or more that have produced points so far through 2 games. So that speaks to their ability to just kind of consistently do it. They're much better about that. I thought the play calling in the LSU game was outstanding. Obviously, the pitch play and the one kind of fade-ish pattern to the end zone are something that people get stuck on. But when you're calling 60, 70 plays in a game, in general, I thought it was a pretty masterful job by Mike Norvell calling that game. To me, offensively, it's how in control Jordan Travis is of everything. And defensively, it's how much improved linebacker play has elevated the ability for that unit to be really good.
Okay, I agree with that. And go ahead, Brendan. Elaborate on that, because you just had a story come out on Knowles247.com. Subscribe right now. There's a great deal about Jordan Travis's development. So expound for us, Expounder.
Yeah, it definitely the most impressive thing of the season to me so far is the play of Jordan Travis. And it really, the offense in general has been very in control, and Mike Norvell seems to have a really firm grasp on what they can and cannot do, and is called games accordingly with that in mind. But Jordan Travis being in total control and command of the offense and really expanding his ability to throw the ball to different areas of the field, it's been so cool to see. It's been remarkable. He is doing things as a passer that he dared not dream about doing 2 years ago. Throws that he's making and completing and attempting he wouldn't even thought of making a couple years ago. So that's been really cool to see. But you look at the skill talent around him is markedly improved from a year ago with Johnny Wilson and Micah Pittman. Add so much to the passing game. The offensive line has been really solid. I found this out today. I was doing some research. FSU leads the country in fewest tackles for loss allowed per game. It's only 2 games, granted, but this was one of the weaknesses of the offense a year ago, was you allowed disastrous plays to get behind the chains and get off schedule. They haven't allowed that. And it's kind of the same thing on defense. It's they understand what they are. They're not allowing big plays through the air, kind of forcing offenses to drive methodically. And just this seems through 2 games to be a team that has a pretty good grasp on what it can and can't do, which I think is pretty important to not be finding out midway through the season a last couple of years. You know what you are right now.
And I think that is important to actually have an idea of what you are as a team, what you do well, what your identity is. I actually want to get to that here in a little bit. Dane, obviously you and I do know Diana. We look at other teams, so that obviously leads to a bunch of self-scouting on our own guys. What do you think about Jordan Travis's development? What part of his game has impressed you the most?
He's developed so much as a passer. He's making NFL level throws, and that's not something we ever expected, I guess, out of him from the beginning. That's huge. But I think looking at what we've seen through two games so far, I think they're just a competent, like well-coached team so far, and that's
it's
refreshing.
a difference, isn't it? It's kind of
Yeah.
nice. Like they look like a Power 5, pretty good so far. 2 games in, college football team, bigger, stronger, faster, and everybody knows where they need to be. Zach, we're talking about identity. In your opinion, 2 games in, does Florida State, they've kind of built off a lot of the work they did at the end of last season, but do you think Florida State's team has an identity yet? And if so, like, could you like describe, like, how would you describe it if you think they do have one?
I think their identity is that they're no longer one-dimensional. I think last year, AB brought this up. Like, I mean, it was boom or bust, right? They were going to get a chunk play, or it was going for nothing. And I think now you kind of have a balanced attack. I mean, we saw in the first game, they completely relied on the run because it was so dominant. They had got 3 guys that went for over 100 yards. And then in game 2, I mean, the run really wasn't that impactful other than what AB, brought up in his article and what he just said and throwing blows. But I think they relied on Jordan Travis's arm. And that's not really something that I think the coaching staff was super comfortable doing last year, especially considering the personnel at receiver and along the offensive line. But with those 2 position groups improved through 2 games thus far, obviously they've had some injuries along the offensive line, but it's still, because of the depth they added this offseason, been a much improved group. And I think that's allowed Mike Norvell and his play calling to kind of unlock aspects of this offense that we haven't really seen in the past.
I agree with
Florida
that.
State.
I agree with that. And it was really a hallmark of when Adam and I had looked at like Mike Norvell's previous Memphis's offenses. They were very versatile, and they were always suited to like what he had. You could tell like one of his first couple years at Memphis, they were one of the most run heavy teams in the entire country. I believe they had Darrell Henderson, who's the current running back for the Los Angeles Rams, and it was completely focused around him. Then a couple years down the road, when they have Brady White, when they have Antonio Gibson, you could see them trying to stretch that field vertically. But it does seem like Mike Norvell, the shackles have been busted, so to speak, and he's shown more versatility in his offense, what he's able to call, and even versatility from game to game, being able to emphasize different parts of his offense depending on his opponent. I mean, Adam and Kevin, do you guys kind of agree with Zach's assessment on the identity of the team? Do you see it differently? I know you guys have both been looking at that a lot in the past week.
So, I mean, just looking at the main stat that talks about how effective you are at consistently moving the football, that's going to be your success rate stat. How effective are you at getting the plays that get you into second and manageable, third and manageable situations? Last season, Florida State was 71st in the country at 41%. Currently, Florida State is 10th in the country at 54.5%. And all the teams ahead of them haven't played a real opponent.
Miami, are they ahead of us?
Miami's number 1.
I just thought I haven't played a real opponent yet. That one kind of stuck out in my head.
They've played 2 teams that, so Miami's number 1. The only team that is high is LSU. So LSU's 8. So they've played another football team.
All right. Well, that's a good point, and I think it's something that you could visually see, man. We didn't get. I don't feel like we were in too many like third and longs, Adam. So it drives to your point about the attritive damage, the body blows, and then finally taking over at the end of the game.
The ones that they were in, though, I mean, they had a ridiculously absurd success rate on third down low. Like it's unsustainable. They were over 60%. Yes. Like that's not going to be sustainable for the year. We know that based on prior data. But even if they get down to that 30% or so, I just think they're going to find themselves being so much more successful on standard downs, whether that be first, second down, running the football or throwing the football, that they're going to set themselves up for more success on third down throughout the year. I mean, it was incredible. We're sitting here talking about identity and this and that. And really, if you think about this football game, they won it on the arm of Jordan Travis. Yes, they were successful with setting things up with the running game and getting some trick plays involved. But if not for Jordan Travis throwing the football, they don't win the game. And when's the last time that we could have that conversation about this offense going out and winning a football game on the arm of a quarterback, and with an offensive line in front of him that didn't give up a ridiculous amount of pressure so that the quarterback could sit back there and be successful. I think that's the biggest thing for me. That's the greatest leap that we've seen so far out of them, that they can go out there and feel like they can beat an LSU with Jordan Travis's arm and with the wide receivers that they have now, and trusting the offensive line in front of them to pass protect. They're always going to be a running football team. That's what they want to do. But I think it's to me, I was like amazed. I was really dumbfounded, especially going back and watching it again, at some of the throws that they were able to go out there and complete.
I think that's a good point, and that's the hallmark of like really good college football teams. I mean, you have to be able to do this and do that, but when your bread and butter gets shut down, like your running game, you now have a quarterback that has the ability and the confidence and enough weapons around him to get the job done and win it like they did. Now, obviously, we're talking about Jordan Travis, talking about identity offense, play calling. Chris, has there been any other player developments that have been really notable to you? Any other guys that have really stood out and be like, wow, this is nice that this kid is doing that?
Well, on the offensive side of the ball, I think it's fair to point out the receiver room was elevated by the transfer portal, guys that went and gut.
Absolutely.
Deuce Span's ahead of schedule for what we thought he was going to be, especially after the spring. He took a big leap from the end of spring to the beginning of the season. Johnny Wilson is going to be a capable, good player for them. Micah Pittman's probably the most reliable guy. We'll see when they get Winston right back here, probably sooner rather than later. He'll be a big piece added into the mix as well. I think that room is one to point out. And then all of this conversation we're having about the offense being able to be balanced, to allow the quarterback to throw it, being able to line up and run the ball. A lot of that goes back to the O-line. It's just so much better. It's deeper. It's more capable. Bless Harris goes down. Last year that happens. We're in Brady Scott territory. It's not going real well. You're just trying to keep your head above water, not trying to knock my boy Brady. I always like Brady Scott, but you know what I mean. This year, it's not that. They have 7, 8, 9 capable bodies. They're still going to have that depth tested, but they're in a lot better place. And that starting group, I didn't think Dimitri Emmanuel played a great game. I didn't think Jazz played a great game, but they battled their backsides off, and they still had FSU in a position to be successful more often than not. And that's all you're asking for from that group. They will continue to progress. They will continue to take a step forward as long as they're able to stay healthy and play together. And I think with Louisville coming up, last year FSU's O-line got annihilated by Louisville. They played extremely poorly against Louisville. I think it's going to be a great measuring stick for how far that group has come season over season.
What do you think, Brendan? You agree with that? Anybody else that's really caught your eye from a player development standpoint? I'm with you, Chris. Like there has been, and that's the thing that's also promising to me about this football team. That was a great win over LSU, and there was still a whole bunch of stuff to clean up, in my opinion. So I don't think that game was their ceiling. Now, it remains to be seen. We'll see how FSU deals with some early season success, and that's something I'll talk about a little bit later. Teaser. But Brendan, what do you think? Any other names besides the ones that Chris mentioned that has really just popped out on the screen to you?
Shout out to Marcus and oh boy, question in the chat. Is Destin Hook from an FSU? Thanks, AB, for adding that to the screen. Appreciate you derailing things. I'm about to talk. Marcus and Douglas Biscuit has risen. He has been very solid as FSU's number 2 tight end, blocking specialist. I think he's a top 5 tight end via PFF right now. And there's things he can do with his game to keep getting better, finishing blocks, not just getting in the way. But you saw against LSU, got soft hands. He's someone who can be a viable threat in both the blocking game and the receiving aspect of playing tight end. So shout out to him. Like he's someone who's gotten progressively better. Someone we didn't even know a couple of years ago if he was going to be able to play football with the medical condition that he had his freshman season at Florida State. And here he is, making a significant impact for a 2-0 Seminoles team. I think on defense, there's been a ton of pleasant surprises. Like Jared Verse has been better than advertised, and we thought he was going to be pretty good, but I think 3 sacks through 2 games. He's one of the leaders in the country with passing efficiency ratings and obviously the blocked field goal as well. He's been excellent. Chris mentioned the linebackers earlier. That was a group that we were fairly bullish on, Trey. Like I think we thought they were going to be
not as good as this. I thought they would go from being like a huge Achilles heel to like being solid. They're almost a strength of the team.
A strength,
I would say. And the athleticism really pops to me.
the versatility of that group, it flashes. Like Tatum Bethune is just consistently in the right place, which is really cool. It's something we haven't been able to say recently. But yeah, Cannon DeLoach's athleticism that you mentioned, like this will be another good matchup for him this week against Louisville and Malik Cunningham. But we saw some of that athleticism and how it could be utilized. And then DJ Lundy has just been such a pleasant surprise as well. So yeah, I'm with you totally. Like I thought that group could be serviceable, and maybe like if you're looking at optimistically, like potentially a strength. But at this point, like definitely not a weakness. And if you want to say through 2 games or a strength, I'm not going to argue with you.
No, and we were not there last year at all, man. And I was going to say, just for me, mine is Jared Verse, man. We knew the athleticism would show, but I had an interview with him on Thursday, and when we were going through that game against LSU, the power and like the violence that he's bringing, obviously sometimes he gets a little ahead of himself, but I'd rather have a defensive end that does that than the exact opposite. That kid, surefire, awesome. We hit on him, and that kid is good, and he works hard, and he's really popped off the screen. Same thing with the linebackers and then the safeties too, but we knew they were going to be good. Now, Florida State, we've had glimpses of success during the Mike Norvell era, right? 2020 UNC, 2021, wins against Miami, things of that nature. And they've honestly seemed to let success, they don't know how to handle it, because the responses after a lot of these games, like what happened last year at the end of the year against Florida, what happened directly. I think we played Louisville right after that UNC win in 2020, and they were just abysmal. They were abysmal performances. Dane, are you is this really that different of a team to you, or is this Louisville test against a Louisville team that I think we all thought would be better than they were preseason? They are 1-1. They've shown to have some dangerous aspects, but even a vulnerable Louisville team on the road, Friday night situation, do you expect Florida State to go out and perform, or do you think we're maybe rife for like a disappointing performance? What do you think, Dane?
I think you should expect them to be better with that than they have been the previous years for sure. And I mean, with Mike Norvell, he's been here for 3 years now. The team should be more matured and better coached in those situations, have better response in those situations to success. But yeah, they should be better in this kind of situation.
You got a lot of conviction. I don't know, man. You saying they should be? You're kind of like going back and forth. Your little hair floppy thing is going there and that. Like, you really believe it? You can if you don't, it's okay, Dane. This is a safe space. Nobody else is watching besides us six.
I was blinking out a little bit. No, I think you're the better. I think you're the better coach team in that matchup, and I think that has to show through as well. But that'll be the big test, and I think you've seen. Another reason you can expect for them to be better in handling success probably is how they handled the LSU game. Like, that was such an intimidating environment, and for them to get the win in the end, I think that's
to respond. You're right. That game itself was a microcosm of it. It had a ton of adversity, a lot of ups and downs. I took at least 5 to 7 years off my life watching it. So yeah, I'm with you. See, we've seen, is Florida State different? The way they responded to that LSU game in kind was different. Zach, you negative SOB. What do you think? You expecting a good performance? I can't wait to see your prediction for the game on Friday.
It's going to be a blowout. No, I'm kidding.
It's going to be a bro. We're going to bro down real hard.
Bro out.
62-20. Those guys.
Done that one before. Is Kev dying? Kev, are you okay?
I'm making it.
Okay.
I'm on the upswing.
He's in the ditch with Brett right now. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. Zach.
Crawling out of it.
Palace
I left
boys.
him behind.
All right, Kev, don't die on the stream. That way, I mean, we get some decent views, but I'd miss you. You're a good guy. Anyway, Zach, what do you think? Kev dying aside, what do you think, man?
Man, Dane and I were watching that Louisville UCF game on Friday, and Louisville does not look good. But I just know that they're going to come out and look better than they have in the previous 2 weeks against Florida State.
Yep.
Like, doesn't that just always happen?
Every time.
So, I mean, what I'm confident in is that I think this team is not going to lessen their play to the point where I think they lose the game. But I also don't think they're going to play to the level that they executed in the LSU game. Like, I think it's going to be somewhere in between. But I still think they come out with a win. I guess we'll get into that later in the week. But yeah, I definitely think Louisville's going to look better than they have in the previous 2 weeks. But I also think that Florida State will do enough in that game.
I feel in the bye, playing the week 0 game against the Duquesne and Duques, I thought that was perfect. We needed this bye week for a multitude of reasons, even just from like the physical stuff aside. The mental aspect of getting some time to have a practice that wasn't your best and recover from it and let it just fade away. Let the high from that all fade away, have a brutal come down and realize, hey, we got to continue to work. The rest of you four, do you guys agree? Are you expecting a letdown performance against Louisville at all? Any of you four? If so, speak up. But if not, I feel like everybody feels a lot more confident than any Florida State fan has the right to be after the past 6 years, but it feels different. Do you guys all feel the same way?
I'm not expecting a letdown because of Wednesday's practice.
Okay, elaborate. What did you see in Wednesday's practice that made you feel that way?
They were awful, and they were kind of told they were awful, and the point was driven home by the coaching staff that you can't do that. And they came back the next day, and they were much, much better. But, I mean, the point was made. If they had just practiced well after the LSU win leading up to LSU, leading up to Louisville, I don't feel as good about it because it's like, oh, this is all going way too well. The fact they had that sort of emotional dump letdown in the way it was responded to by the coaches and by the players the next day, I think it matters. I think it's significant. And I think, responses preached around these parts a lot, but I think that was needed. They had the best success they've had in 3 years as a program. And most of these guys live in that 3-year window, if not less, and especially with the coaching staff. And I think it was just needed to have that moment of like, cool, you're 2-0, you won, it's a huge game. But nobody's going to give a, if you go out there next time and lay an egg and don't continue to have success. I think that practice kind of helped plant that seed and water it very quickly with the blood, sweat, and tears of running their backsides off after practice.
I agree. Much like Miami's home stadium, success is rented and it is not owned. So it's good for them to find that out. Brendan, do you feel the same way? It looks like you're going to talk before Chris big leagued you, which I enjoyed as a host. But go ahead. Did you have anything else to add, or did Chris steal your thunder?
No, he didn't, because we have a different take. He does big league me from time to time. It's fine. I know my role. As someone who drove up to Louisville in 2020 after the UNC game and had to cover that catastrophe, as someone who got into a shouting match with a member of the FSU Sports Info staff in 2018 at Louisville.
Oh, you're a bad boy. As someone bad boy, we can get that whiskey in you, huh?
Threw up violently en route to the game in 2016. Chrisney had to hop a curb.
I jumped a curb.
To get me to throw up on the sidewalk like a civilized human being. I think I threw up on Brett in the gutter as we were driving past Papa John's Stadium. Going to Louisville has not worked out very well for Florida State, nor myself.
Or you, personally. It's been a house of horrors.
So the idea of 3-0, of things going well, of people being able to be happy at Noles 24/7 is just something that I don't allow myself to get into emotionally, because it just doesn't seem like it's happened recently. So
you don't think you're expecting a letdown?
I need to emotionally prepare myself and this fan base for a letdown and do the emotional hedge, much like what Zach did for all of us last week. So I'm gonna say there's a chance for Louisville. Yeah, in all seriousness, it would have been really nice for Louisville just to completely quit against UCF and go into that game 0-2 with everyone just completely done with Coach Satterfield. But that doesn't seem like that's the case. It showed a little bit of
your UCF Knights forgot how to throw the football. So
I was going to say UCF's too much of a joke program for that to happen. So of course, no team would quit against them.
They forgot how to throw the football. They forgot how to run the football. What the hell?
Too many ska boys in Central Florida for any team to quit against them, right?
Yeah, too many horns and trumpets going on.
That's right.
For sure.
The brass section was far too strong. Anyway. Moving, furthering Chicken Little Sinone's point a little bit. Adam or Kevin, are there any areas of concern? We've talked all about the positive response, Jordan Travis. We also did talk about areas where they need to clean up. 2 games in, any areas of concern for you guys that you've noticed specifically? I'm going to let the big bald guy go first. Adam, you go first. And your areas of concern I want you to think about, are those systemic, or are those things that we can clean up throughout the season, you think?
Yeah, I'm scared shitless about the secondary.
Okay, that's strong. Honest. That's strong. No poop at all inside the body because of the secondary. Give me a little bit more info on that.
I think Kev is probably going to agree with me when he gets his opportunity, but Kevin Knowles is turning a lot of coverages loose right now. It looks like, from what some of the stuff we've broken down, seems to be some miscommunication between he and the linebackers and maybe the safeties from time to time. I worry about Jared Verse in this game because he's going to be leaned on heavily to be an edge setter, and we've seen from time to time he gets out of his lanes, and as well as Jaden Daniels played running the football in that last game, I think Malik Cunningham is umpteen times better. So he worries me. He worries me with his discipline that if he gets out gapped, I think they can really make you pay. Whereas I didn't think LSU was necessarily going to with their running game. But the secondary, I'm worried about miscommunication. We've seen that be an issue for 3 years now at Florida State. I'm not sure why it continues. Whether some guys are just still battling through some injuries or whatnot. Duke Cooper really, really doesn't look like himself at all. Hopefully this was a good big week for him to get healthy. But if they're miscommunicating and turning guys free, I think Louisville's going to be playing their A game, looking to get a win at home. And I think that they can make you pay if you're busting a lot of coverages.
Can that be cleaned up? Miscommunication stuff. I mean, I would say that to me, that's something that seems
it can.
But however,
it can, but
it's been years and years and years. It's kind of like a
this is
continuing
year 3
trend.
of this problem. It's year 3 of this problem, and I thought it got cleaned up some last year. I'm not sure why it's rearing its ugly head again, but here we are. I mean, it's early in the season. They've obviously got this week or this past week and the one upcoming to have spent a lot of time working on it. And again, guys getting healthy, but that's a concern for me though.
Okay. It seems like some people want to respond to that. I'm going to let that happen, but Kev, you go first because you're on the last throes of life. I see you having death rattles up in that upper left corner. So I want you to get it out before you croak live here on YouTube. Subscribe to the Knowles 24/7 YouTube page. Do you agree with that? Any other areas of concern? And then I'm going to let the rest of you four guys kind of respond to those areas of concern, whether you agree, disagree, etc.
Yeah, I think Syracuse was able to get away with kind of just bringing the house on Louisville. Syracuse has a couple of really good cornerbacks that we don't have at Florida State. And so they were able to get away with that, bring pressure, basically contain with a run blitz and play man coverage on the back end. UCF rolled the dice, and they did a little bit of that as well. And I'm going to go over this a little bit more in a video later this week, but I think there is a little bit of concern on whether or not Florida State can get away with the same thing. Louisville's wide receivers aren't very good this year, to be frank, but neither is Florida State's cornerbacks. And you saw Florida State give up a fair amount of rushing yards to Jaden Daniels because they had to keep 2 safeties deep because they were worried about LSU's receivers. And so I think a big question mark is whether or not Florida State will be able to kind of keep that extra man in the box to try to dissuade Louisville from running the ball or keeping Malik in the pocket. But that's a big question for me on the offensive. On the offensive end, it's strength against weakness, and I think Florida State's going to be able to move the ball. It's just whether or not Cunningham returns to form. If he's just having a kind of a little slump at the beginning of the season and he returns to form, or if his struggles are because he has no one to throw the ball to. So that's the big question.
So counterpoint to that before these guys go, because I agree with you. We all watched the same film, and there were some areas of concern for Florida State. We talked about Louisville not having great wide receivers, and Jaden Daniels having a pretty good game running the ball, and honestly, nothing else to that last drive. I mean, Florida State was able to execute that game plan against Keyshawn Butte and then Malik Neighbors and way better receivers than Louisville has. Why should we be more concerned with this game, even with those coverage issues that we have? Now, maybe we should, but I think that that's a fair question that people would ask. We locked down LSU's receivers. Is it the Malik Cunningham factor that scares you guys a little bit more?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you don't want to give up as many yards and be as unsuccessful against LSU as you are against Louisville. I think you want to find more success. LSU was able to move the ball and score.
I think
go ahead, Chris.
I think Cunningham's also better at evading the pocket with his eyes downfield and throwing it. They'll do a lot of design where they'll get their tackle wide with your end. They'll play the interior guys and create a gap for Cunningham to extend the play through while keeping his eyes downfield. They hit one of those against UCF for a pretty big gain. That's something they'll do more effectively. When Daniels kind of decided to run, he was running. There was no sort of eyes downfield keeping it alive. Cunningham, a little bit more of a threat there. That's a concern. if a safety or a corner starts pulling in, you get a one-on-one. That's where you get beat for a long ball.
And I tend to agree with you too, Kev, and especially the type of routes that Louisville's going to run. They're going to, if we're having communication issues, they're going to screw with our guys all day. I mean, Adam, what do you think about all that?
The thing that concerns me the most about this game is they've got actual tangible film on what Florida State's trying to accomplish right now and what their game plan is. And that's a concern because now they've got film of Knowles turning coverages loose. He and Lundy Deloach miscommunicating. They've got film on Amarion Duke Cooper and what his struggles are so far. That's why I'm concerned more about Louisville than I was somewhat to a degree about LSU, because Louisville's going to know what to expect. They've got a great scout on all these guys now. So they're going to know how to attack these guys. They're going to build a game plan around attacking these guys. LSU didn't get that benefit because they showed nothing against Duquesne. So that's kind of where my headspace is for this game. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, again, hopefully guys are getting healthy and they've worked on it.
And I'm going to let everybody respond to the areas of concern because I think they're valid. Right now, just for context, or any of you, and if you don't want to show your hand, I understand we've got a couple days. Are any of you guys predicting a Florida State loss on Friday?
I am not.
Not right now.
Okay,
Brendan.
look at Brendan's little Frankenstein hand. What about you four? Adam, Kevin, Dane, Zach, anybody leaning towards maybe a letdown game in Louisville on Friday?
Louisville.
I don't think they let down, but I don't think a loss will be a letdown either. I mean, I think they're going to go play well, and we'll see what the outcome is.
Competitive. I feel you on that. Sorry, that's good. That's good. That's good as far as taking a look at the phrasing. But I wanted to say, these are areas of concern. I just didn't know if it had brought you guys closer to I think Florida State's going to lose Friday night than win. Or is anybody there or no?
No. I don't think Louisville is particularly impressive.
Yeah,
I've watched a Syracuse game twice, UCF once.
Yeah.
Syracuse did a good job of, beyond the fact that they have corners they can leave on islands, they did a good job of retracing with their defensive ends. They kind of forced Cunningham to live that life in a box.
Right.
And I thought they were really good at it. That's something FSU has to do well. You can't work from behind Cunningham and get into foot races. The kid's going to win those. And UCF, I thought, played a horrendous second half. I mean, Louisville played a better second half than they played a first half, but UCF was dreadful in that second half. I think FSU is going to be able to post points. I don't know that Louisville is going to be able to post points at an equal level unless FSU allows multiple busted plays, which is where the concerns with the secondary come into play. And I do share similar concerns with the secondary as Kevin AB.
Okay. Anybody else agree with that? Any Zach, Dane, Brendan, do you have those same concerns that Adam has and Kevin has? Do you guys have different ones? Go ahead. Brendan, in your face, you're doing that weird little hand thing. So Zach gets to go first. Zach, any other areas of concern you have?
No, yeah. I mean, I agree with a lot of you guys' points. I think the secondary is definitely, which is crazy to say, probably the weak point of the defense for Florida State right now. The linebacker play doesn't really worry me between Deloach and Bethune, although the AB pointed out that miscommunication on that third touchdown against LSU between Deloach and Knowles. But yes, there are blown coverages. On that specific play, it was a little bit tricky just because I think there was some stuff that was going on in LSU's backfield that kind of confused Knowles, and that's not something that should happen, obviously. But I think it's something that they can get corrected. And I think for those guys, everyone's going to say, oh, they're going through a sophomore slump. I've seen stuff in the chat. And FSU, I think you got to try and prevent that, right? Like those are Duke Cooper was a guy towards the end of last year that looked like total cornerback one material. And obviously he's battling an injury right now. That's why he missed the Duquesne game. And it was even a struggle to come back for the LSU game. He looked kind of ginger in those warm-up videos before the LSU game. He looked fine out there, like wasn't limping or anything. But he didn't look like himself, like AB said. And I think that has part to do with why there's a little bit lesser of his play. And for Knowles, I don't really know. I mean, we've seen it in practice and obviously in the game. He just hasn't looked as good as last year. So maybe that means you rotate some more guys, like a Greedy Vance. Is that even better? Like, I don't know. Like, I think Greedy Vance might be even more of a risk playing. He's kind of a risk reward guy. And obviously I think he'd be amped up playing his old team. So yeah, it'd be interesting. That's kind of where my worries lie, especially on the defense. But But I'm with Chris here. I don't think Louisville's put anything on film that's uber impressive to me through 2 weeks.
Sure.
That's not that has me not super worried, but also it's their home opener. They're going to be amped up. They're trying to play, to kind of keep their season alive, right? Like they're 1-1. This would make them 2-1 with a win, and then they head into the rest of ACC play. So I definitely think they're going to play better than what we've seen in the past 2 weeks. How much better is, kind of what determines the outcome of this game.
I'm with you, man. And go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead.
This is why I have trouble seeing Louisville win this game. I think you can rely on shot plays, and if there's some shot plays that goes their direction and stuff, then it might be close. But right now, when it comes to running plays, Florida State is 4th in the country in success rate.
On defense?
On offense.
On offense, okay. Nice.
Louisville's defense is top 10 worst in rushing success rate.
I'm not a numbers guy, but I like how that matchup sounds.
That means that Florida State should be able to consistently run the football on Louisville. And we've seen with Mike Norvell, if he's able to do that, he's going to lean on it. I think I think Florida State's going to be able to score this game. And unless Malik Cunningham has an All-American level performance, which he's capable of, I think Florida State walks away with it.
Okay, I'm with you too, and I think that's a good point. It could be something to where Florida State's got some issues. Is Louisville the right team to take advantage of those issues right now? In some ways, yes, but in many ways, no. And I'm interested to see how a kid like who we thought played really well at the end of last year, Duke Cooper, he is moving very gingerly, like Zach said. Shout out to the OG Ginger, Red Lightning. Hopefully we can get that taken care of. It will be interesting to see how the team responds after that bye week. Now, Dane, with Florida State going 2-0, a record that a lot of people probably wouldn't have predicted in July, has it recalibrated your expectations for Florida State? And not just on Florida State's performance, based on some of the other performances that we've seen in college football for the first 2 weeks, are your personal expectations for this team, have they been recalibrated a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, LSU isn't a game you went in expecting to win, and now on your spreadsheet you have a 1.0 by that game. So, I mean, that should recalibrate things a bit anyway. But like you're saying, the rest of the schedule just looks going into the season, it felt like we had a really tough schedule, and it just, that's changed a little bit.
It looks
right?
more manageable. Absolutely.
Predicting college football playoff.
No, listen,
undefeated.
Don't listen to
shot,
Kev.
Dane. Come on.
Hey, trap for Heisman, baby. Let's go.
Kevin.
Yeah,
No. Double D. Don't
I
listen
thought I
to
heard
Kevin.
12-0
He'll
there
lead you down the
almost.
path.
Thought I heard it.
Jesus Christ. Dane, continue. These charlatans.
Yeah,
don't mess with my guy.
You have 10 games remaining. I feel like if you go across that, I'm not looking at the schedule right now, but I'm sure a majority of those games look a little bit more winnable than they did at first, especially in conference.
Brendan, what about you, Brendan? Expectations recalibrated a little bit, and what have you seen from some of these other teams on Florida State's, to me, more manageable schedule?
Well, it definitely recalibrates, even just from the point that Dane mentions, like now that 0.5 or 0.4% chance of beating LSU is now
That's a 1.
1.0. That's a 1.
Great
So thank you.
Great
Thank
point.
You, Dane.
Great numbers.
Thank you, Dane, for making the same point beforehand.
1 twice as much as 0.5. Absolutely. We've established that.
But before the season, I think we would have all assumed that Florida State was going up to Louisville as an underdog. I don't imagine that'll be the case now. I'm not sure if the betting line has come out on here on Sunday evening. It probably has, but I imagine FSU will probably be favored. And other teams on the schedule look really vulnerable. Wake Forest does get its quarterback back. That is a little bit of a problem, but BC does not look very good. Miami has things to clearly work through. They did not look all that fantastic for the first half, and so against Southern Miss the other day.
Great crowd, man. That place was rocking.
That's a toughie.
That's red meat. That's red meat for Brendan, but secretly Kevin is the biggest Miami hater on the entire staff.
Kev,
you two.
Kev, let's get a side podcast on just trashing Miami constantly.
You guys are great.
We'll call it Garnet and Bold. Just make bold takes hating on them.
Good pun too. Justin Gray in the chat. FSU 1.5 point favorites in Louisville. Okay. So we've established that 0.5 is less than 1, so that's good. Adam and Kevin, what have you seen from Florida State's opponents? What like any teams that look better than you thought, or does everybody just look more butt across the board?
Trey, Florida State's got to worry about Florida State. Okay.
Well,
Not
you know
worried about-
what?
not
Mike,
worried about-
Mike Norvell would be so proud of you.
God,
right
you
now.
are
Like a
such
player
a coach.
interview.
My
It's the
God.
game in front of them.
1% better every day. All right. I'm
Okay.
not worried about
Come
who-
on,
who's
baby.
on the
Grit,
schedule.
determination.
Cliche me to
that's
death,
fantastic.
baby.
Hit me. Chris is he's eating it up.
Finish.
All
I'll
right.
give you an
To
answer,
answer
Trey.
your
Boston
Right.
College looks like ass compared to what I thought they would be.
That's my
They are-
boy.
They are
Yeah.
absolutely awful. Like, my
And
God,
they
they
are.
cannot protect them. They can't run the damn ball. It's awful. And I love Jeff as a coach. I think he's an excellent football coach. I thought they were going to be good. A little bit of a step back with the offensive lineman injury with Mahogany.
Mhm.
And I know they had an O-lineman that was down this past week, so that played a role in what happened to them on Saturday. But, man, they've looked dreadful against Rutgers and then against VTech. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's tough, man. That Boston College job will catch up to you eventually. Even if you have it rolling a little bit, it will win. The Lannisters always pay their debts. Like, it's going to catch you, and your team will suck ass eventually. A big ol' ass, like Chris said.
To answer your-
Kevin,
To answer your question, Trey,
Yeah.
I think
Thank you,
Florida
Kevin.
looks better than I was expecting. I was expecting them to lose by multiple scores to both Utah and Kentucky, and they didn't.
Okay,
Guys,
fair.
I got to watch the
When
end of
Utah
that game
wins 8
with
games this year.
Kev, and he got so mad when Utah threw the interception. It was
Well,
adorable.
Foreman Rising, I hadn't watched enough of him to know that he was an utter garbage quarterback. He was
That just
graded
kinda
at like
popped right out of
70
you.
We
in
really-
PFF last year. He was.
We really hit our
garbage.
groove at 45 minutes in this one. There's no doubt.
So
Kevin
yeah,
punched
a
a
little
brick
bit.
wall.
It takes a little bit of time to get you guys to get the guard. I'll work on it. It's like Novocaine. My style works on everybody. So
Some
Florida
guys bring sweet tea, some guys bring liquor.
That's right, brother. So Kevin, Florida looks a little bit better. Anybody else that looks a little bit better
I
than
mean,
you thought?
Syracuse looks better.
Yep.
I mean, if Schrader can throw the football, he's 6'4". He runs like a brick house. They've got
Adam, your face. You're gonna get to talk.
What?
next,
Brick
'cause
houses
you're-
run? What?
I got what you meant, Kevin. I've
We
seen
knew
very
it.
mobile.
It was a
brick
vivid
it's
houses.
Sean Tucker, right, as the running back.
Yeah.
He's probably the best running back in the ACC right now. Their defense is okay, but I mean
They
that
look
offense.
better. So
That
they look
offense
better.
looked really solid, and it's going to be a tough team to beat. They're probably your best. Like, yeah, I'm more worried about Syracuse than Louisville right now. Big time.
Interesting. Nobody would have said that preseason. So 2 look better, and do all the rest of the 8 look about what you think, or a little worse? Wake Forest with Hartman back, I think that's going to be tough no matter what. They play us tough, but I mean, to you, Kevin, even with those points being made, do you find the schedule as a whole more manageable?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's unfortunate that you're playing Wake Forest and you're playing NC State and you're playing a improved Syracuse team. All 3 of those teams are probably better than any team that Miami plays, not named Florida State this season.
So true. So true.
And that includes the SEC matchup that they're playing next week.
And I do like the distinction of just because it's more manageable does not mean that it's easy. Now, Adam, go ahead. You're bursting at the seams. Go ahead and say what you want to say.
The brick wall running that just struck me.
Brick house.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to see on Syracuse. I don't know if I buy it yet. We've seen this song. We saw this exact same stuff last year out of them. They're here. They're arriving. Dino Babers is going to save his job, and then it all fell apart. We'll see. You do have to go play them up there. I agree with Chris. BC looks like just dog meat.
Yeah, they do.
They are terrible, and that's kind of surprising me because I thought Halfley was gonna. I thought they were making some strides, and then it all really fell apart. Having nobody to block for you tends to do that to a football team. I think Florida's overrated. I don't think they're as good as Kev maybe is giving them credit for. Because
I think they're a top 35 team, but not a top 15 team.
I don't think Utah's very good. Utah looked really small and really movable on the defensive line. And I thought that's what Florida did. When Florida had to move Kentucky, I didn't think they could. So I think a defense with a pulse is going to be able to give Florida a little bit of trouble. Other than that, I mean, Clemson, yeah, we'll see. Are they going to stick with DJ? Is Dabo really calling plays? Yeah, we'll see on them. They're a really good football team. That defense is crazy good. I want to see more of NC State too, because I think
wait, time out, Trey. I think a dereliction of duty here. We have to get AB to pronounce how he says Dabo.
shit. I pronounce things how I pronounce.
What'd
them.
you say,
I'm sorry.
Dabo? Is that the
Dabo.
way?
It's-
Oh, Dabo and DJ Ukulele.
I was gonna say shout out to Kev because he said that DJ is not going to be any different, and Clemson does not have an offense this year. So that's another one of the teams that looks so much more beatable than they did preseason.
Defensive
that
line's
defense.
gross, but
You're right, Dan.
yeah.
Good job, Dave.
Daybow's got a good defense, that's for sure. So we talked about all of the we talked about all the in-season stuff. Zach, let's get to your area of expertise, my friend. So you don't yawn anymore in my stream. Don't ever do that again.
Don't ever do that again.
Nerd alert. How has this affected recruiting? Florida State fans are feeling positive. Has it had the same sort of level of positive influence over the recruiting? Or, what have you seen? You're the juice guy. You're tapped into the juice. Tropicana Blowstein. What's going on?
Yeah, it's for the guy, like what people have to understand is that Florida State is not looking to fill up this class with a bunch of recruits, right? Like,
sure.
They have 14 guys committed right now in the 2023 recruiting class. I think they probably get to around 20 through the high school ranks. I'm only talking high school and the one JUCO guy they have in Jaden Jones. But I only think they're going to go to around that number because look at all of Florida State's impactful players, right? They're all guys they got from the transfer portal. Jared Burst, Fabian Lovett, Jordan Travis. Obviously, that wasn't this staff, but it's a proven way. Sorry, I'm becoming Kev right now.
It's spreading through the internet.
Yeah,
it's the contagion monkey virus. Yes, everybody's dying. Or that's outbreak. Yeah, that was the monkey virus. Go ahead anyway. Monkey viruses aside.
Mike Norvell has proven that he knows how to evaluate talent in the portal. Obviously, that's not the only way you want to build up your roster. That's why they're adding 20 or so guys through the high school ranks. But that's why I think that Florida State fans haven't seen, dozens of recruits come and react to them beating LSU. Obviously, another aspect to that is that they have to keep winning. Like that one win is not just going to be enough proof of concept for a 5-star prospect to be like, you know what, FSU's back. I'm going to go there.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to start, really considering them. They have to keep winning. Big Louisville game is going to be a big deal. And obviously, as we move further into the season, things will become more important once FSU, especially facing some rivals like Florida and Miami with their new coaches. Obviously, Clemson will be highly ranked when they play them. Those games will be important. But for the guys that do matter, I think that things are trending in a positive direction. I'm of the belief that Florida State sits in a really good spot for Hakeem Williams, their number one overall target, 5-star wide receiver. He decides on September 23rd. He was at Pitt over the weekend for their loss against Tennessee. He'll be at Texas A&M in Miami this upcoming weekend.
Texas A&M.
The battle of mid. Not two horrible teams. No, I'm sorry.
The battle of Middle Earth.
Is Jimbo going to win the brown jacket on the sidelines?
Oh, God, his team looks like a brown something. Middle Earth battle.
That
was the worst fake fart I've ever heard in my life, Brendan. Sorry, Zach.
I felt tepid that I probably shouldn't do it midway through.
Man, always commit to the fart. Go ahead, Zach.
No, I was saying Miami's offensive line was giving up like sack after sack to what were they?
Southern Miss.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think things are trending in a great direction there. Obviously, Hakeem Williams is from South Florida, so I don't think that recruitment will be over if Florida State does end up landing his commitment on the 23rd. But I think that, chill, guys. And then the other guy, Blake Nicholson, right? The 4-star linebacker that FSU has been recruiting for a while. They regained the momentum in his recruitment over the summer. That's only continued to translate into the fall. He loved seeing FSU's win over LSU. He's one of the guys that reacted in my reaction story pretty quickly.
Great story, Zach. You do a fantastic job with that.
Appreciate it, Trey. He's deciding on the 20th. He'll be live on the 24/7 Sports main YouTube channel announcing his decision. That'll be later at night. I think it's like 9:30 EST because he's over in California. But I like FSU there. I still got LSU on the mind. And then Florida State has a really good class like already put together, right? Like Lucas Simmons, Keldrick Falk, who was at Auburn over the weekend. They didn't really look that good. Rod Kearney is a guy that we can get into a
Interesting
little bit
name
more.
right now.
Yeah,
Yep,
he was at
interesting
UF
name.
over the weekend for their loss. But it seems like he has a lot of interest in the Gators, and maybe Georgia's another school trying to get involved there. Keith Sampson looks pretty locked in, and they've got a bunch of other guys, and we've been highlighting some of their performances, man. Like one thing I will note that I haven't talked about really yet is I do like a story every Friday night or Saturday morning, just kind of recapping Florida State's commits and targets and their performances on Friday nights. And man, like it's super easy to find like these crazy performances from their commits. Like
The
I think,
stats are huge
Yeah,
every single time. Another great story you do, Zach. It just
Thank
seems
you,
to be a
thank you.
habit with you, but yet the stat lines they're PlayStation numbers. They don't look real.
Vandrevius Jacobs sends me every Friday night at midnight. He sends me like 5 videos, and they're all like touchdowns of him, like on like from that same night. He watches like the YouTube live stream that Vero Beach does, and like clips it for me, and then just sends them to me, and I just post.
They look good, dude. They look good.
And like he's like scoring like 2, 3, I think even 1 week 4 touchdowns in a week. Like he's been awesome. And Goldie Lawrence was back on the field after serving a 2-game suspension for getting like kicked out of his spring game or something. I think.
Ooh, I like that. I'm good with that type of attitude.
So he
got the dog.
He came back and like scored like 5 overall touchdowns. I think he caught 4, then ran another one. So he was awesome. And we highlight it every week. So be sure to be on Noles 24/7 checking that out. But what I want to say is like it's really easy to find like these guys showing out on their high school teams, even like the guys that are lesser ranked, like Goldie Lawrence, Vandrevius Jacobs. DeMarco Ward has had a really good senior season so far. He had like a 12 tackle, multiple TFL and sack performance last week, and he had a game-winning Wildcat touchdown this week. So yeah, it's been awesome to see FSU's commits kind of show out.
Good evaluations. It looks
Yeah,
like, honestly, even on the lower rated guys, good. And that's something that look at Chris. Let me talk, please. I'm with you, dude. Really, really good evaluation. So Zach, anything?
Go ahead,
yeah, go ahead,
Sorry
Big
for making
Papa.
you feel left out.
Now you know what it's like to get really big league.
It happens. Our boy Trey Jacobs needs to be ranked better. The dude always
talk to your
does.
people. Talk to your
I'm
people,
just saying.
Cosa Nostra.
I'm not
Talk
one to
to
stand on
Godfather.
tables for rankings very often, but come on now. He's damn good. And he might be a slot, but whatever, he's damn good.
The last time Chris really stood on a table for recruit, like against the company, I think it was Asante Samuel, or that was one of the more recent examples, and Chris proved to be pretty spot on with that. So
right again. Mama's right again. Well, listen, so we've talked about everything. We've been seeing a lot of really good questions come through, like 57, 58 minutes. Let's spend the next 5 or 10. Stretch out your fingers. I want to answer some questions from the chat because there's been some good ones. So get ready. Let's get some questions in. Let people write them in there. Anything else that you guys want to add into the miscellaneous section before we start answering a couple questions? Anything else anybody wants to add?
I'll throw in real quick while we let the questions stream in here. And this is kind of going off of – I'm doing weird things with my hands tonight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
So
it's
one
getting
thing
weirder.
that I think it's important with the recruiting aspect that Zach mentioned. I think that Florida State doing well this season, I don't know how much it really helps out for the 2023 class. It might be able to help finish up a couple recruitments like Hakeem Williams, which would obviously be huge. But for the most part, this class for the prep aspect is solidified, right? Like this is more or less done. What FSU can do if, say, you overshoot what you thought you were going to do before the season, win 8 or 9 games, imagine the level of cachet you'd have towards transfers and where that would put you in the pecking order for transfer prospects. That kind of alluded to this, but I think it's something that we need to focus more on, like moving forward. 2023 prep recruits, probably minimal impact of winning games this season. This helps out more for 2024 class. Getting to go to the front of the line for top transfers consistently, because you could sell, look what we did with a quick turnaround with the transfers that were brought in already this season, and look what you can do. And you have the blueprint for defensive ends. You have Jermaine Johnson and Jared Verse in back-to-back years. You can look at the wide receivers and what they've done. That's if it all keeps moving in a good direction. So I
they're
think
good at
that's where-
recruiting those guys. They've shown acumen with a bad program at recruiting really good transfers.
and putting them in a good position in the coaching aspect. So then if you can upgrade the talent level of recruit that you're getting as well and have a little bit more oomph on the recruiting trail, like one extra sales pitch, that'll be significant for this program. If you can overachieve, it'll help out a lot in 2023, I think.
All right, I like it. Let's get some oomph on these questions. Adam, are you the question guy? Just pick the best ones and shoot them to the screen, and I'll read them out.
Sure. There's a couple of recruiting ones. This one's from Bug Zapper. What's I believe he's talking Chris Otto
From
Chris
Key
Otto,
West.
Chris Nee.
Go ahead.
I'm a big Chris Otto fan. I actually talked to him a couple days ago. FSU got on the phone with him after the LSU win, got him in contact with the film school, which he is super into that. That is his thing. He really appreciated it. It stood out to him. He's in no rush. He does want to get here for a game, but obviously coming from Key West, that's a little bit of a trick, especially with playing on Friday nights. Probably, if I had to guess, it'll be Louisiana or Florida when he has the best chance of getting here for a game. And then I think they'll bring him in for an official after the season. He's a kid that I think there's an excellent chance he ends up at FSU. I think they really liked him. They loved what he did at Showtime. He's one of those kids that could play on either side of the line. And there's something about him where you like him because he's kind of Play-Doh. You can mold him. He's big. He's strong. He's athletic. He's a wrestler. He uses his hands well.
Ooh, wrestler.
He's smart. He's cerebral. There's a whole lot of qualities to like about the kid.
Is he a guard or a tackle?
He could play right tackle. I think he's probably more an interior guy. Truthfully, I think he'd be an awesome 3-tech, but I think his heart is more on offense than defense.
Okay.
More of a safety or a cornerback, Chris?
All right, we'll throw this one
stoic
from Timmy.
response.
Throw this one from Timmy to Zach. Where do we stand with Mike Mitchell?
Zach's
you're
audio
muted,
is
Zach.
off.
The dreaded mute button.
You're
You're
muted.
muted, Zach Plugstein, and you remuted yourself again. This is great. It's the opposite. Now you can talk.
Look how much Dane is enjoying it. Like you've never screwed up on camera before, Dane. Don't be a bull.
Exactly, man. What's going on?
Look at Draper cheesing like a fiend.
Why
Anyway,
is
go ahead,
Chief
Zach. What about
roast?
Mike Mitchell?
Mitchell, he has not yet been
God.
Go. I think you're okay now.
What
Hey,
else?
Chris.
You're good, sir.
You're
This
good.
is
He's not
This-
good.
he's not.
out of here.
Zach
Mitchell.
moved into my old house.
This is why we need tips turned on so we can pay for internet for Zach. He is a college student and he needs
the
more
shame
money.
of being dunked on by Dane was too much to handle. Zach, have you recovered, or did you cut your internet cord in like protest?
I don't know. Hello.
Mike
Yeah.
Mitchell, talk to
They
me
were
about
good.
Mike Mitchell.
No, don't mute yourself, though, Zach. Oh, Jesus.
Oh my God.
Go ahead, bud. Mike
Zach,
Mitchell.
just talk.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you
Yes.
sound fantastic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
good.
Okay. Mike Mitchell has not been offered yet. Not been offered yet by Florida State. He Florida
not been
State
offered
is
yet.
waiting on his. He's waiting on his grade situation.
Oh,
They're
boy.
waiting
Fantastic.
on his grade situation if they will extend the offer, and I do expect Florida State to land his commitment if things check out with his grades.
Fantastic. That was great. You sounded like an old like Godzilla movie with the Japanese bad dub. That was good. Dude, Zach, once again, showed grit, showed heart determination. You write great articles, and you really stuck through that one, man.
He
So
got
good for you.
1% better today.
You did. Kevin from Carol Pilalis. Carol Pilalis from Facebook. What's up, Facebook? Who's been the player that has impressed you the most, both on offense and defense? Kevin Little.
I'm not going to give you the standard answers of, Jordan Travis and, Tatum
It doesn't sound like
Bethune or
it's that.
Jared
It
Burst.
doesn't sound that standard right now. You were
But-
thinking about it for a little bit.
Sorry, yeah. I have a bad habit of calling Tatum Bethune Tatum because of Bethune-Cookman. Just because I don't know. So I had to think about it for a second. But I think the answer I want to give is
It's a
Pokey
beautiful
Wilson.
mind over
I
there.
think Pokey
Pokey
Wilson has
Wilson,
impressed me a lot. I think he's a guy that made a couple of great plays last season, but there was huge questions on his consistency, and I think having Pittman and Wilson to kind of take attention off of him has has kind of got him more one-on-one matchups, and I think he's really thrived in that so far. And I think he was the player. He was the second offensive player of the game after Jordan Travis against LSU.
I like that. That's a good answer. What about defense? Bethune Tatum?
Tatum Bethune is definitely the player. I think we were all high on him. I think there was some question marks about him from other places, but watching his UCF film, we were high on him. Looking at his stats, we were high on him, and I think he's shown nothing but that. We talked about earlier, the linebackers are potentially one of the strengths of this team, and I think he's pretty much the reason why.
I like it. Kev and/or AB, I'm going to give to Adam. What is the offensive game plan to effectively take Louisville out of the game early from William Flynn on YouTube with a very close-up profile picture?
Run the football and run the football more, and then run the football some more, because
what happens after that, Adam? What next?
Well, he might throw the ball every once in a while. Seriously,
Nope.
that they haven't shown that they can stop like a standard run game. I thought they had some effectiveness against UCF because UCF refused to run any kind of standard like zone play to their running back or any kind of gap scheme to their running back. They
kept doing that weird draw thing where the quarterback would roll.
What the hell they were
it back?
It was like they had to run the ball with Plumlee or the other kid as the Wildcat. Like they couldn't just hand the ball to the running back. Gus Malzahn has lost his freaking mind. If I'm being completely honest, as an former offensive genius. So if I'm Florida State, we're running a lot of counter. It looked like a little bit of tight front from Louisville, so that's a 3-man front.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably going to play a little bit of double tight against these guys, try to balance them out. Might see a little bit of down, a little bit of power, definitely counter, maybe some outside zone because I don't think their running back or their linebackers run very well. We'll see if Florida State can block that or not. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to run the football against these guys because I think you get downhill on them in a hurry and they really struggle to stop it.
Good question, Bill. I want 2 more questions. Adam, pick the 2 best ones and let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. 2 more.
Let's let Zach redeem himself.
Am I back?
Or maybe we can just let his father, Dane Draper, take the question. Any update on DJ Chester?
Let's go.
Go ahead, Zach. I'm kidding. I love everyone.
All right. Yeah. So DJ Chester, he is Florida State's probably top remaining offensive line target besides Christopher Otto, who Chris mentioned earlier. I think DJ Chester is a kind of a level above him on FSU's target list.
Sure.
But he wasn't at the LSU and FSU game, but he watched it and loved what he saw. I did an in-depth kind of article with him last week following that game, and he told me he's visiting Florida State twice this season. He'll be at the Boston College home game on the 24th unofficially, and then he'll be, or I should say twice the rest of this year. He'll be back on campus for an official visit with Florida State in December. That's where they prefer to have their remaining targets take their officials because they want to be that last school to host them before signing day. So yeah, DJ Chester, I think FSU sits in a good spot with him. LSU is another school involved. They just hosted him for their game against Southern over the weekend. And I think Michigan's another school. There are a few others. But I think right now it's probably Michigan, LSU, FSU, and maybe Auburn, I think are in the mix. I have to check on who else is involved. But I know FSU feels pretty good about where they stand with him.
Is he an interior guy or go ahead, Dane.
I was going to say he has an official visit scheduled to Ole Miss on October 1st as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Dane. Really cleaning up Zach's mess yet again.
Oh God! Is Chester an interior? Send money. Is he an interior guy or is he a tackle?
I believe he'll be an interior guy at the next level. Okay. He plays some right tackle, and he looks pretty good and athletic. But his body type, I think you'd ideally want him to play interior. But you know how FSU is with kind of position versatility on that line.
Sure.
With a guy like Darius Washington, he's a little bit bigger than Darius height wise. So I think he could play right tackle, but I expect him to be on the interior at the next level.
Okay, good. Versatile. That's what we like. That's what we're all about here. Knowles 24/7.
Trey, can we get two more? Can we get two more quick ones? Because
Yes.
they're
Oh my
two
God.
Lightning
teed up
round.
that I
Lightning
really like.
round.
Lightning. Okay, let's go.
This
Yeah,
one-
the
this
lightning
first
round
one's
that you
gonna be
guys
for
never
Chris.
actually adhere to. Okay,
The
go
first
ahead.
one's from Chris because I think he asked it himself. I think he logged into an alternate YouTube account.
Ooh,
I was
okay,
busy
Kevin
making my
Durant.
Is Jordan Hall making any visits?
Kevin Durant.
He was at
brothers.
Florida for an unofficial this past weekend. Jordan kind of lives life 1 week at a time.
Hell yeah.
FSU is going to try to get him on campus.
Vin
for an
Diesel.
unofficial.
1/4 mile.
The
1/4
last
mile at a
one
time.
because I really want Brendan's thoughts.
Oh boy.
How about those all white uniforms?
Crispy.
The only people I'm friends with who did not like the all-white uniforms are about 20 years older than me. I think maybe that's the best way I can sum those up.
Okay, the weird thing is the helmet, the white color on the helmet's off from the uniform, right? Like it's a little bit different. I think that's the one weird thing for me.
Pessimistic
sure
Jack. What have I said?
God, look at him. The only guy
But that's every
dumping on
white
white
helmet
I'm bringing up
white.
the real points. You guys are all everything's
They're made out
great.
of different materials.
I'm giving it to you from the real. 0.5 is less than 1, and helmets are made of different things than jerseys, guys. We have really we've traversed new and uncharted waters here on this. We better get out of here. Let's just get out of here. Knowles 24/7, the early season roundtable. Maybe we'll have another roundtable after game 3, maybe game 5. Maybe we'll do it after every prime number. I don't know, but we are going to be back. Subscribe to Knowles 24/7. Go to the site. All of the dope AF content is on there that you can see. Just go there, send money, and funnel it directly towards Zach's Comcast. And go there, subscribe to the Knowles 24/7 YouTube, subscribe to the X's Knowles YouTube. Listen to the pod on the bench. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your frenemies. We are the Knowles 24/7 staff, the best collective group of talent in the history of Florida State media. I am Trey Rowland for Kevin Little, Adam Brown, Brendan Sonone, Dane Draper, he of the low internet, Zach Blostein, Chris Nee, and somewhere in a ditch somewhere, Brett Nevitt. I am Trey Rowland. Have a great day. Keep chopping on, and we will talk to you all later.
Gig 'em.